Welcome to Serenity and Fire, the podcast where wellness meets grit. I'm your host, Krista Guigeni, founder of Panacea Luxury Spa Boutique. Join me as we dive into the intriguing world of biohacking, clean living, cutting-edge spa trends, and the hustle, grind, and grit of entrepreneurship. From my personal battles with weight management and infertility, through a 30-year struggle to create and launch my dream business, to building a sanctuary for those who have been touched by cancer, I'm here to share real talk, inspire big dreams, and spark a passion for holistic living inside each and every one of you. So let's dive in. Welcome back to Serenity and Fire. Today, I want to talk about seed oils because it seems like everyone is talking about them. And I've literally been asking myself for months, what's the big deal around seed oils? Are they really toxic, or is this just overhyped? Or is it something that we should really be paying attention to? So I reached out to my health coach about this, and she was super helpful. And of course, she also set me on the correct path. And I'm now incorporating this whole seed oil philosophy that I'm about to share with you into my daily habits. But of course, my conversation with her drove me down that rabbit hole of discovery where I learned a lot about this whole entire topic. So I wanted to share some of the things I discovered with you along the way. And hopefully by the end of today's show, you'll be able to navigate this seemingly complicated topic with ease. And if you've spent any time in the wellness space lately, you've probably heard of two extremes when it comes to seed oils. Either seed oils are toxic and you should avoid them at all costs, or this is completely overblown, seed oils are just fine. The truth, as usual, is somewhere in the middle. But what really concerns me, and the whole reason why I wanted to do this episode today, is that most people don't actually understand why they're controversial. And many don't understand what seed oils actually are or why they matter in your daily life. So let's break this down, because when it comes to your health, awareness definitely matters. So what are seed oils really? Well, to simplify, seed oils are not just oils that come from seeds as we know them. They're oils extracted from small plant sources like seeds, but also from grains and even legumes. So yes, technically, canola oil comes from rapeseed, which is actually a bright yellow annual flower. Safflower and sunflower are actual seeds. Soybean, however, is actually a legume, but it's processed in the same way as these other oils. The key distinction here is that it's not just what they came from, it's how they're made. And here's what I mean by that. Before these oils are even put on the shelf at the grocery store, they are heated at very high temperatures, often chemically extracted, and then refined, bleached, and deodorized. And yes, you did hear me correct, bleached and deodorized, which I think is so gross. But why are they doing this to these oils? Well, the reason is because that in their natural state, they're unstable and they actually don't taste very good. So what you're actually consuming isn't just oil from a seed. It's a highly processed industrial product designed for shelf life and cost efficiency. And that's where the concern really begins. And this is also where a lot of the conversation online gets a little extreme. People will say, these oils are already rancid before you even buy them. And that's not entirely accurate, but there is some truth behind that line of thinking. As I mentioned, these oils go through high heat, mechanical processing, often chemical extraction, and then refining, bleaching, and deodorizing. That last step, deodorization, is actually designed to remove the off smells that come from oxidation. So by the time these oils hit the grocery store shelves, they're typically not fully rancid and not immediately harmful, but they may have already experienced some level of oxidative stress and degradation during processing. So I would say it like this. They're not necessarily spoiled, but they've already gone through processes that can reduce their stability and nutritional integrity. In addition to the way seed oils are processed, we're also concerned about them because they are what we call polyunsaturated fats, which means they are chemically unstable. They're very sensitive to heat, light, and oxygen. So when you cook them or you fry them or you repeatedly heat them, they can oxidize. And oxidized fats contribute to oxidative stress in the body, cellular damage, and long-term inflammation, which are things that none of us want. And that's why, from a health perspective, the concerns you've heard about are not just hype. They are legitimate, and we should definitely pay attention to them. So what if we don't heat our oils? Then are they okay to eat? And the answer is they're less problematic, but still not completely neutral. Since seed oils are high in polyunsaturated fats, which are, again, inherently unstable, even before you cook them, they can oxidize during processing, they can be exposed to light and air, which further increases their risk of oxidation, and they can sit on shelves for long periods of time. And since time can decrease their stability, this is definitely an issue too. So while heating makes things worse, the instability starts before they ever reach your kitchen. So I would probably say it like this. Unheated seed oils are a lower risk exposure, but they're still not the most optimal choice for daily use. And in addition to the instability and oxidation potential of seed oils, they're also controversial because they are very high in something called omega-6 fatty acids. Now, omega-6 itself is not bad. Your body actually does need it. But the issue is balance. Historically, humans consumed a 1-to-1 ratio of omega-6 to omega-3 fatty acids. But today, it's more like 10-to-1 or even 20-to-1. And when that balance shifts too far, it can push the body towards a more pro-inflammatory state. But here's what I personally think is the biggest problem when it comes to seed oils. It's not that they're in one thing. It's that they're in everything. Salad dressings, sauces, protein bars, healthy snacks, restaurant foods. So it's not one exposure that becomes a problem. It's chronic cumulative exposure multiple times per day, every day. And that's where I think we need to really start paying attention. So let's layer this one step further. Even if a seed oil starts out as acceptable, when you heat it, reheat it, or use it over and over again, you're increasing the oxidation significantly. And this is why restaurants are actually one of the biggest sources of concern, because those oils are sitting at high temperatures, they're being reused, and they're constantly exposed to air. Imagine a typical kitchen with all of the food and the oils just sitting out on the grill all day long. So I would say this clearly. It's not just what the oil is, it's what happens to it over time, especially with heat and reuse. Now, let's be clear. Seed oils are not poison per se, and I want to ground this because I think this is where the wellness space can tend to lose some credibility. Seed oils are not going to destroy your health overnight. Your body's incredibly intelligent, and it can process a certain amount. We've talked about this in the past. The issue is not one meal, one night out, or an occasional use of the seed oils. The issue is daily intake, repeated exposure, and poor quality oxidized oils. So I don't want you leaving this episode today feeling afraid. I want you to leave the episode feeling informed so that you can make educated and intentional choices about what's best for your health and well-being moving forward. And if you take nothing else from this episode, I hope that you take this. Where you consume seed oils matters more than whether you consume them at all. So let's look at high impact areas like restaurant foods. That's a really big one. Also fried foods, packaged foods, dressings, and sauces. Those are all going to be big areas of concern. Some lower impact areas would include occasional use at home, small exposures, and infrequent consumption. So instead of trying to eliminate them completely, start by reducing your exposure in the places that matter most. And if you're someone like me, my husband and I, we eat out a lot. So this is an area that we're really trying to minimize our exposure. Now let's address another gray area because this is where people often get confused. What about oils like peanut oil, almond oil, or other nut-based oils? Well, these don't fall into the same category as industrial seed oils, but they're also not the most stable fats. They sit kind of somewhere in the middle. For example, peanut oil is more stable than soybean oil, but still often highly refined. Almond oil can be less processed, but it's delicate and not great for heat. So my stance here is simple. Nut oils aren't the worst, but they're also not what I build my daily fat intake around. Now let's talk about something newer in the market because you may have seen brands that claim to produce clean or non-oxidized seed oils. These are typically cold pressed, not chemically extracted, minimally processed, less exposed to heat. And yes, that does improve the quality of the oil overall. It reduces oxidation, chemical exposure, and degradation. But here's the nuance. The fat structure is still the same. These oils are still high in polyunsaturated fats, which are inherently less stable than coconut oil, avocado oil, butter, or things like ghee. So my take on that is that cleaner seed oils are definitely an improvement, but they're still not the most stable fats for daily use, especially when exposed to heat. So now I want to spend a minute on olive oil because this is one of the most misunderstood healthy foods. And the first thing I want you to understand is that not all olive oil is created equal. In fact, a lot of olive oil on the market is diluted, oxidized, or mixed with cheaper oils. So when you're choosing an olive oil, here's what I want you to think about. First, you want to look for extra virgin olive oil, or sometimes in restaurants, you'll see EVOO. That's extra virgin olive oil. This means that the oil is cold pressed, minimally processed, and higher in antioxidants like polyphenols. You want to look for dark bottles because light can degrade oil. Clear bottles are definitely going to give less protection to the oils. And the harvest date of the oil actually matters because olive oil is perishable. Ideally, you want to use your olive oil within 12 to 18 months of harvest. And then we want to look at the taste profile because real olive oil should have a slight peppery finish and a bit of bitterness. That's actually a sign of the antioxidant content or those polyphenols that I mentioned. If your olive oil tastes completely neutral, there's a good chance it's been overprocessed or diluted. So now let's talk a little bit about cooking with olive oil. Is it a problem? The concerns with any oil, as I mentioned earlier, are going to be degradation, potential oxidation, and something called smoke points. Olive oil is actually more stable than most people think, and even though it's a liquid fat, it is mostly monounsaturated fat, which is a more stable fat than the polyunsaturated fats that I mentioned earlier that are in seed oils. Olive oils also contain polyphenols, which are natural antioxidants, and these can actually help protect the oil from oxidation. And when it comes to smoke point, something that is important but often misunderstood, for extra virgin olive oil, the smoke point is about 375 to 410 degrees Fahrenheit. Most home cooking is well below this. So for sauteing, light pan cooking, and roasting, olive oil is going to be generally safe. It only really becomes a concern when you're deep frying, when you're using very high heats above those smoke point levels, and with repeated heating. And then at that point, yes, degradation can occur. And what research actually shows is that good quality extra virgin olive oil maintains stability under typical cooking conditions and produces fewer harmful compounds than many seed oils when heated modestly. So in a nutshell, olive oil is actually quite stable for normal cooking. The issue isn't in using it, it's just overwhelming it or using low quality versions. So what should we be using? Here's a kind of a practical guide for you. You want to use olive oil for sauteing, drizzling, salads, low medium heat type cooking. You want to use avocado or coconut oils for higher heat cooking. And you want to use things like butter or ghee for flavor and higher heat stability. You don't need to avoid olive oil for cooking. You just need to respect its limits and choose a high quality source. Now let's go a little deeper into the omega conversation that I mentioned earlier, because this can be a little confusing for some. I know it definitely was for me because I actually take fish oils. So the first thing I thought was, if I'm getting too much omega in my diet, why am I taking omega fish oils? And it is true, like I mentioned, seed oils are high in omega-6 fatty acids, and that fatty acid is not bad for you. Your body does actually need it, as I mentioned earlier, because it can help the body respond to injury and infection. It enables inflammation that's necessary for healing, and it's important for skin integrity and hydration. Omega-6s help the body respond and protect. So it's not that they're inherently bad, it's that we're getting far too much of them. So like I mentioned earlier, the issue really becomes about balance. And historically, humans consumed roughly equal amounts of omega-6 and omega-3. But today, we're massively over-consuming those omega-6s and we're under-consuming our omega-3s. So the goal is not to eliminate omega-6, it's to stop overwhelming your system with it. And that's also why so many people take fish oil supplements. Not because omega-3 is some magic fix, but because it does help rebalance that ratio. Omega-3s can also support brain function, cardiovascular health, anti-inflammatory pathways, hormonal and cellular health to keep your cells functioning optimally. So a simple way to think about it is this. We're not trying to remove something our body needs. We're trying to restore balance in a system that's currently overloaded. Our body needs both, but the right ratio is what matters. Omega-6 is an accelerator. Omega-3 is the brake. And right now, most people are flooring the accelerator with barely any braking. So here's my approach to all of this and where I think this whole oil conversation fits into our day-to-day lives. At home, I personally cook with typically olive oil or coconut oil, sometimes avocado oil, and butter or ghee. Ghee is something new that I've been experimenting with, and I will say it is a bit of an acquired taste, but I do like it. And there are some great brands like Fourth and Heart that are clarified so that if you have a dairy sensitivity, this is a great option for you. Plus, it gives you that healthy grass-fed animal fat that our bodies need. The other thing I do is I try to reduce daily exposure to any seed oils altogether. And then I pay attention to the ingredients in my foods. But let's be honest, when you eat out, like I mentioned, Jason and I do a lot, you're almost always going to be exposed to seed oils because restaurants primarily use soybean oil, canola oil, and blended vegetable oils. And they do this because they cost less and they typically last longer. So instead of trying to control every situation and to prevent you from sounding like a total crazy person when you're out at dinner, I try to focus on the biggest exposures. And here's what that might look like. I try to choose grilled, baked, or steamed over fried. If I get an opportunity to ask them if they can grill something or cook something in butter instead of whatever seed oil they might be using, I will ask that. I do avoid heavy sauces and dressings and typically tend to grab for more of like a balsamic vinegar or olive oil and vinegar wherever possible. And I just try not to stress over the occasional exposure because this isn't about perfection. I'm just really looking to minimize the damage as much as possible. Okay, now I want to go into a little bit of a sidebar and introduce you to a framework that's often talked about in the functional medicine space. It's called the 2-2-2-2 approach, and it's popularized by Dr. Pompa. You've heard me talk about him a lot on the show. I love him and I love his philosophies. And it looks something like this. It's 2 tablespoons of olive oil, 2 tablespoons of MCT oil, 2 tablespoons of ghee or animal-based fat, and 2 teaspoons of Himalayan salt a day. Now, this isn't about adding random calories to your diet. It's about strategically shifting your body's fuel source and reducing inflammatory load. And here's the idea behind it. This approach encourages your body to become more efficient at burning fat for energy, which can help stabilize blood sugar, improve energy, and reduce cravings. And healthy fats support your mitochondria, your cell's energy producers. And when your mitochondria function better, everything improves: your energy, your brain function, and your hormone balance. And then when we look at MCTs, which are typically derived from coconuts, these are medium chain triglycerides, and they're quickly absorbed and converted into energy by the liver. They're also rapidly converted into ketones, which are a very clean source of fuel for the brain. So this can support mental clarity, focus, and cognitive performance. And then there is ghee or animal-derived fats. And these are going to provide fat-soluble vitamins and structural support for hormones and cell membranes. Then the olive oil is rich in those polyphenols and antioxidants, which support inflammation balance and cardiovascular health. And then when it comes to the Himalayan salt, this is going to provide trace minerals and supports hydration, adrenal function, and nervous system balance. Now, do I think everyone should follow this exact protocol? I'm not sure, but I do think it highlights something important. And that is that the type of fat you consume matters. And when you replace highly processed fats with stable, nutrient-dense fats, you shift your entire internal environment. Now let's go one level deeper because you're probably asking the same thing that I was asking, which is when you increase your intake of healthy fats like ghee and olive oils, what happens to your cholesterol? The short answer is that it can go up. But here's the nuance. Not all cholesterol behaves the same way. There are small, dense LDL particles, which are definitely more concerning. And then there's larger, more buoyant LDL particles, which are less concerning. So in large part, it's really more about where are you getting your cholesterol from and what type of cholesterol is it that we're seeing in your blood work. And in many cases, when people shift toward healthier fats, your good cholesterol or your HDL is going to increase, your triglycerides are going to decrease, and your inflammatory markers are going to improve. So while LDL may rise, the overall metabolic picture often improves. This is one reason why practitioners like Dr. Pompa are less focused on total cholesterol alone. They're looking at inflammation, insulin resistance, triglycerides, and overall metabolic health. Now, with that said, this is not a one-size-fits-all prescription. This is where personalization really matters, and it's something you should monitor with your provider. At the end of the day, this isn't just about food. This is about inflammation, skin health, aging, hormones, recovery. What you put into your body shows up everywhere, in your energy, in your skin, and in how you feel. And at Panacea and here on Serenity and Fire, this is something we focus on every single day because external results always have internal roots. So if I can leave you with one takeaway today, it's this. Just like I've said with everything we've ever talked about on the show when it comes to going clean, biohacking, and focusing on your health and wellness, you don't need to be perfect. You just need to be more intentional than you were yesterday. Reduce the load, make better swaps, stay aware, and let your body do what it was designed to do. So that's it for today's episode. Remember, everything shared on Serenity and Fire is meant for general information and inspiration purposes only. The topics we discuss are not intended to diagnose, treat, or replace personalized medical care. So please always consult with your healthcare provider before trying anything we talk about on the show. Your health is unique and your care should be too. If today's conversation resonated with you, share it with someone who's trying to clean up their own lifestyle and who wants to do so without going to extremes. And as always, please connect with me on social at Serenity and Fire, visit us at Panacea Luxury Spa Boutique, or explore more episodes wherever you get your podcasts. Until next time, protect your peace, lead with intention, and keep balancing Serenity with Fire. I'm Krista Guigeni, and I'll talk with you more in our next episode. At Panacea Luxury Spa Boutique, we don't just offer traditional spa treatments. We create rituals that relax your mind, restore your health, and rejuvenate your spirit. From biohacking technologies to advanced oncology-trained care, everything we do is designed to help you heal on the deepest level with clean, holistic therapies, products, and amenities that are second to none. And right now, you can experience two of my favorites, our whole body LED light bed or hyperbaric oxygen therapies. And as a thank you for listening, you'll get 10% off your first session when you use the code Serenity10 at booking. What is your panacea? Let us help you find it because true wellness isn't a quick fix, it's a ritual.